Instead, I'm going to make sure there ain't a damn soul on that ballot for you to vote for. I'm going to eliminate all the competition. That's the deal. Because John Kasich is worried about John Kasich. That's right. He's not worried about you. He's not worried about the state of Ohio. And I wish I could tell you that's not true. But I'm a conservative. I have common sense. I've been in business for 26 years. And I know it's a rigged game. So in your hands is a survey that was done that says the vast majority of Americans think we need a third party. And it's not just, Tea Party people. A majority of Republicans, believe it, and almost a majority of Democrats believe it, and a huge majority of independents believe it. Because folks, here's the truth of the matter. Last year, in the election of our lifetime, they always say that, it's always the election of our lifetime, right? But it's a pretty big election. Couldn't quite miss it, right? Yeah, 2.4 million registered Ohio voters stayed home. The election was decided by 160,000 votes. You know why? Because they didn't want to vote for either one of them. Because there was no choice. There was no choice. When John Kasich was elected governor in 2010, 4 million people stayed home. Less than 4 million people voted. Only 49% of the people voted. And John Kasich didn't even win a majority of them. He won 49% of 49%. John Kasich is governor of this state for the last 4 years. He won 23.5% of the vote. Barack Obama is president of the United States. He won 32.5% of the vote in Ohio. Of registered voters, of the people who could vote, he won 32%. Why? Because they've spent your whole life trying to get you not to be involved in the policy, in the whole process. They want you to stay home. They want you to just do what they say. They want you to let them pick the candidates. And I can't have that. Because we can't become the nation we need to become under this circumstance. But I also can't see how you can win in a rigged game. How are you going to win in that when they can change the rules? So the only answer I see is probably independent candidates for a while. Because I really think this is the way it's going to play out. The traditional way of starting a third party is you start a third party and you get a bunch of people to join it and then you get some candidates and you elect them. Okay? But the way the media and things are today, you can't. It's stacked against you. So what I think is going to happen is that we're going to mobilize independents and we're going to encourage third parties that have hardly any members to run principled people. And we're going to try to drive the independent vote and conservative vote to those independent people and try to have third parties win. And if they win and they govern the way they say and are principled, then people will be drawn to that party to join. And I think that's the way it's going to play out. I didn't say it's going to be easy. It isn't easy. It's not easy. But what choice do we have? We need to have principled people or we don't have America. That's it. The second part of it is we have to attack the system. I believe these people are good people. Okay? I know there's evil in the world, and there are some evil people. But I even believe that Steve LaTourette could be saved. Okay? Take a while. But he could be saved. All right? But my point is that they're in a system that is totally corrupt. It's like Matt Lynch says, you want states' rights? Just don't take the bribe. Why have we lost states' rights? Because the feds come with that money and say, well, if you do this, in your schools, we'll give you this money. Don't take the bribe. But how many people won't take the bribe? How many people won't take the bribe when I say attack the system? You know, I said if I ran for chairman of the Republican Party, what would I do if I won? Oh, jeez. You know, I'd actually have to do something. Okay? What would I do? Well, one of the things I would do is I would say, you can't be a full-time legislator. You have to keep your real job and you have to stay home. Because if you kept your real job and stayed home, I'd have no control over you. And you'd actually vote the way the people in your community want you to vote.
Amen.
Because the only reason you vote the way they want is they got you. They got your family. Because your whole life is in my hands. And if I'm Bill Batchelder and I say, I'll unelect you, son, if you don't vote the way I want, you take it to heart. And he does say that. Okay? So that's a problem. All right? That's a real problem. So you got to attack the system. In Texas, the legislature meets only once every 2 years. And it's Texas. They're huge. They got a lot more money. Why do we meet all the time? For our benefit or for theirs? Right? I've been on the phone with Congressman Bill Johnson, for instance. Well, he's literally, you know, you watch C-SPAN and they're having a vote, and they got the tally up there. And he's literally standing outside, ready to walk in the vote. He's on the phone with me saying, Tom, what do you think I ought to do? What do you think I ought to do? And I'd say, Bill, I said, here's what. If you were just back home in Marietta, you would be voting exactly the opposite of the way you're going to vote. Because you don't know what I know. Because they won't let you see what I can see. You know, I tell this story all the time. You know, when I was a young boy, my mom had this pot that she used to make beef stew in. And it locked, and it had this little metal thing that went on the top. And when the beef stew was done, you'd pull it off and it would whistle. It was a pressure cooker, right? Yeah. That's it called? You guys know what I'm talking about? Yeah. I can't look at the Capitol without thinking of that. Every time you look at the Capitol, you think about that. Because what they do is they stuff Dave Joyce and Jim Renacci and Bill Johnson and Jimmy Jordan, and they stuff them in there, and they close the doors, and they start to cook them. They start to cook them. And Bill will say to me, well, they just brought in this guy who's a retired guy from the CBO, and he tells us this is a good, you know, this debt ceiling is a good deal. And I'm saying, Bill, no, that guy's a moron. You don't need to hear from him. They're bringing him in because he's going to tell you what they want you to hear. There should be no congressional offices in Washington. You know, in America where we live, okay, and we have businesses and stuff, we have these things called like phones and video conferences, and we get Skype, right? And we have this really cool thing called a jet plane. And you can get on it and go do business and come home, okay? So how come you're spending $2 or $3 million a year to have a staff in D.C. when you could spend $2 or $3 million a year and have a staff up here in Lake County, okay? And hire some jobs stuff. And guess what those lobbyists have to do? They have to buy a lot more plane tickets. Now they got to go visit all these guys. Why do they do that? Is that for us? Is that for them? Systems are what ruin things, not people. And good people in bad systems will always fail. We've learned that from our own business. We've learned that from our own business. And so when we say that we're for limited government, limited governance, that's what we mean. I don't want you making every decision about my life. I want you to defend the country, okay? I want you to keep the peace. I want you to make sure we have good roads and we have sufficient power.
Secure the borders.
Secure the borders, defend our sovereignty. That's it. There's nothing in the U.S. or Ohio Constitution about health care.
No.
You have no business being there. None. All right, and there you go. And so you sit there and I say, okay, you know, so what is this all about? And I talk about attacking institutions. Now, I grew up in Erie, Pennsylvania, and we had things called the PNA, the Polish National Alliance. And we had all these clubs for the Italians and the Jews, and everybody had their own clubs. And when someone's husband got killed in the war or whatever, the club took care of them. The church took care of them. Catholic hospitals were the ones that gave charity care. You know what's happened to all the Catholic hospitals? They're all being bought up by the big, you know, UHs and, you know, in Cleveland Clinics and down in Columbus and all that. Okay? They're destroying the institutions. We're trying to defend our country by preserving those institutions. And that's the balance that we're lacking. So that's why you're in these chairs tonight. Because our job is to speak the truth, to educate the people we're around, to find principled people to run, to support them and elect them and defend them and hold them accountable.